All right, let's talk about Slovakia. Prime Minister assassination attempt yesterday. Where is Slovakia? What do I need to know about it and him?
Well, that's some very fundamental questions you're asking there. Slovakia is obviously one half of Czechoslovakia, which split in the Velvet Revolution in the 90s. That was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was broken up in the aftermath of the Great War. So we're looking at one of the handful of small, richly historical, very culturally proud Central European nations. And Robert Fico, who's their prime minister, has dominated Slovakian politics really since not long after the end of the Cold War. He's been, the number one political figure in that country, I think it's fair to say, for 30 years. He really dominates there. And really, very shockingly, he was shot yesterday about midday. He just hosted a cabinet meeting because Robert Fico is a populist. So rather than always having the government take place in Bratislava, the capital, he takes the government on tour. They have cabinet meetings in sports halls, in cultural centres around the country, to bring politics closer to the people. And he just held one of these cabinet meetings in a small town. In the sort of mountainous Midlands, uplands of Slovakia, came out of the building, getting ready to leave, and went to shake hands with a group of what he presumably thought were admirers who had come to say hello. Obviously, he just won an election, so he's not exactly a totally unpopular figure in Slovakia. At that point, one of the people in the crowd pulled a handgun. From the audio that we have, you can hear it's fired 5 times. Please go ahead. I can't hear you.
No. Sorry, I clicked the video and I didn't mean to. Please, sorry to interrupt.
No problem at all. So yes, he is fired upon 5 times. I believe he was struck twice. Although the quality of information we're getting is not great from the Slovakian government. They're keeping a lot close to their chest. There's then the inevitable pile-on of the close protection officers who evidently were not close enough. That is a major source of discussion in Slovakia today. Should the close protection officers be prosecuted for their failure to prevent the Prime Minister from being shot? Should the Interior Minister resign, because that's his department that's responsible for that? That's being discussed in the Slovakian newspapers today. Then Fico is rushed to his limousine, driven away at high speed, and the alleged gunman is arrested. So that's where we were at about midday, as I say, European time yesterday. We then had a very tense few hours where the news coming from Fico's spokesman, his 4 deputy prime ministers giving periodic updates on his condition. In the end, he was in surgery for 5 hours, 2 surgical teams involved. And at times it sounded like he was very close to death. The latest update we have this morning is that it is believed he pulled through the surgery. He's now recovering in intensive care, still in critical condition, but not on the verge of death, as it was reported he was yesterday. So a very dramatic afternoon.
Do we, like Slovakia, and I hear this word, every article I've read has the word populist. He's a populist. What does that mean in Slovakia versus maybe America or England?
So this is a very interesting thing. This is a big part of the sort of all the news update we got up on Breitbart London first thing this morning, is talking about how the establishment, the legacy media, if you like, worldwide has really struggled to understand, to classify, even to quantify what Robert Fico is. To some people, he's a left-wing, economically left-wing leader. To others, he's right-wing. Is he populist? And I think, as I say in this article, in fact, I think the main thing to take away from this is that what this really underlines is how the left-right scale that we use to classify politicians is really just so insufficient. As soon as you get outside that very narrow envelope of what we experience in politics in, say, the UK or the US, where you have the Republicans and the Democrats, and until you get, say, for instance, a Trump-like figure who comes along and is doing something completely different. He's just so far out of the mainstream. And how do you classify that? In the UK, you have Labour and you have the Conservatives, and they're the main parties of power. But then you have something big that comes along, like Brexit, And it just doesn't come cleanly down along party lines. And clearly, as I say, the legacy media, looking at Robert Fico, they just can't figure out what to make of him. He's clearly left-wing. I mean, his deputy prime minister or his finance minister, I'm going to have to check my notes, but one of the guys actually who was speaking out about the shooting today, a senior member of his own party, this guy is a Marxist academic. You know, he's a university lecturer who is also in the government. He considers Che Guevara and Hugo Chavez to be his political heroes. So clearly it is a left-wing political party. But on the other hand, they're also very anti-mass migration. They're quite socially conservative. They can be quite Eurosceptic, although at times Robert Fico has helped bring Slovakia closer into the European Union. He's been an integrationist in that response. All of this defies easy classification and a surface-level analysis, which I'm afraid is all you're going to get from the newspapers. And then there's the other stuff as well. If we look at the way that Fico is treated by the media in his own country, and this is a whole other thing that we need to talk about, which is why did he get shot? And there's a lot of discussion about that and the febrile sort of environment in Slovakia, which is angry and polarized. And there's things that we can take away from that, looking at the way the presidential election in the US works, for instance.
We got 2 minutes. Let's do that in these 2 minutes, because that can help us bring it extra relevant here. I'm shocked that there have not been more political assassination attempts around the world. Maybe there are and we don't hear about them. I don't know, but I would think it would be way more common, noting the temperature of the room.
I think we benefit in a sense from having very effective security services, which tend to nip these things in the bud before they happen, and maybe that's not the case in Slovakia, I don't know. But as you say, we've got 2 minutes, I'm going to get to the end of this quickly. The fact is the political environment in Slovakia is incredibly polarized, and you'll read this anywhere. That's sort of surface-level understanding. But what we're getting from Fico's camp last night and today is a very clear apportioning of blame at the political opposition, who are the centrist, globalist progressives. And it seems like the gunman is actually in that camp, a centralist, globalist, progressive gunman, go figure, and the establishment media, who have essentially demonized Fico and made him out to be, I think one of the quotes was like, monstrous-like, as this great enemy of the people that has to be done away with at any cost. And just 4 weeks ago, 35 days ago, before the assassination attempt, Fico himself warned that this level of polarization in the media, the constant attacks against him, bearing in mind he'd just won an election, so it was clear that he has a political mandate, he warned that this level of anger from the media demonizing him could lead to a politician being murdered. And look what's happened.